Let's turn to Manchester United's 1-0 victory against Manchester City last night that ultimately wasn't enough to see them get through to the Carabao Cup final. Andy Mitten is with us. Andy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Is this a moral victory? Is that where we're at now?
Well, it was a victory away at Manchester City, the second one in 6 weeks, but I've never walked away from a ground feeling disappointed having beaten Manchester City like I did last night. And I didn't expect it. I was frustrated towards the end when Manchester United were awarded a free kick in a dangerous area and Fred struck it straight at the wall. And I saw Fred after the game. I didn't take it out on him, but part of me wanted to. But that was a good chance, actually. And I know City started really well, as they had done at Old Trafford in the first leg, where they hammered United and went into a 3-0 lead. But I thought it was a very good game last night. There was a pretty nasty, tense atmosphere at the Etihad Stadium. And I thought United were quite smart. Clearly, City had some very good chances. And when Mitten, who I also spoke to after the game, when he scored, it was the 10th shot of the game, and the previous 9 had all been for Manchester City. But I see things in United where, and this can change on a weekly basis, where I think there's progress here. It's not easy to go to City and win a game, and yet you can still see that they're short of quality. Marcus Rashford playing last night would have made a difference. I thought Matic was doing well, and then he got sent off, and that changed the game again. And the win is pick the mood up, as did the win at Tranmere on Sunday. That mood, admittedly, was on the floor. There is a considerable amount of anger around among United fans following those 5 defeats in a month. And then we've got Bruno Fernandes to come in probably today, probably going to do his press conference for internal media today. And then that leads into Saturday's game against Wolves at home. Seems like there's a drama every day at the moment with Manchester United. It's a real soap opera at the moment. And the mood has not been good. It's not particularly enjoyable to cover because I'm a Manchester United fan as well. I've never hid that, and I try and do my work objectively. But the 1-0 win against City, yeah, great, but it's City going to Wembley, and I think the Carabao Cup would have been a really good trophy for Ole Gunnar to win in his first full season as manager at the club.
I'm sure the anger has kind of intensified as a result of what happened outside Ed Woodward's house the other night. Is that something you noticed at all in the stands last night? Is it something that is a huge topic of conversation between Manchester United fans, or is it more like, look at those idiots over there, don't even give them the attention?
It is a topic of conversation, and there are fans who think it's disgraceful, and there are fans who don't. I think it's valid. It's been coming. It really has. And the fans have been very patient at matches, far more than you get at other major clubs if they were doing as poorly as Manchester United have done. There are conspiracy theories among fans. People think it was a set-up. And the manager, he obviously he condemned it, as are people at the club. They feel that legitimate protest is one thing, turning up at somebody's house is another, and it all goes into this swirling pot of anger and completely different opinions among a lot of fans. There was talk of a protest at the weekend for the Wolves game with fans walking out, and that came out of nowhere as well. There's not really any organisation here. This is social media can just pick up, and opinions can harden and become facts, and groups can form, but and then there's so many opinions. There are literally hundreds of opinions as the best way to protest. There's been more harder protests against the Glazers before. There's been visits to people's houses before. There's been much stronger protest inside Old Trafford, and that anger has only simmered. It's never fully gone away. This takeover was deeply unpopular at the time. It remains unpopular. And it tends to come to the fore, not always, but when the team are doing particularly poorly, as they have done in the last month. And yet, win against City, okay, it's not really led to much, but it'll just lower the temperature by 5%. Sign Bruno Fernandes, it'll lower it by another 5 to 10%. Bring a player in on loan up front, it'll do exactly the same thing. So the mood is always changing, and within the season, it's probably changed 4 or 5 times where you're thinking, turning the corner here, these results are really good. Beat City, beat Tottenham, and then go and lose against Watford. So it sinks again. And that has been the trend for this season. And somehow United, who've been very good in the Cups, they won 10 of the 14 Cup games, somehow they're hanging on in 5th. It looks really precarious, that 5th position, because I think if you dropped 4 points from that, you're down in 15th. But that's where they are at the moment. And it's a source of comment every single day. People like yourselves are ringing me because it's very, very interesting what's going on there. I wish you'd ring me to ask me about winning trophies sometimes.
Don't worry, we will at some point. This too will pass, Andy.
Yeah, I think it will. And football is always cyclical. And for every club in the world. And I cover Barcelona a lot. And I see ridiculous situations where the fans bay for their manager to lose his job when he's top of the league. And I know older Barca fans who saw their club win 1 league title between 74 and 92. Their problem is expectations were raised so high under Pep Guardiola that they think not only should they win the league or the Champions League, that they should do it playing mesmerising football every single week. And the bar is set impossibly high, so they're going to fall. At Manchester United, the bar was set very high under Ferguson, and it should be high. They've become one of the 3 biggest clubs in the world, along with Barca and Real Madrid. So 5th isn't good enough, and there needs to be an improvement. But if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to pull it off, and I don't know if he will, but if he is, he does need support and he does need patience, and he's getting that. But it's still very, very frustrating when the team that can beat Spurs or Leicester or Chelsea twice lose at home to Burnley. And that's a disgraceful result against Burnley. And in isolation, fine, football teams lose matches, but it was the 50 defeat in a month. And that's what caused the consternation, that's what caused the anger, that's what caused the songs against the Glazers and against Ed Woodward. And that's what sets the mood. Football is about results, no matter what anybody says. And if United were top of the league, you wouldn't be having any of this.
Yeah, there's been a couple of, like you mentioned, a couple of theories about the Woodward thing. The Telegraph actually have an interesting piece on it this morning. They said that the people at the house are believed to include members of United's notorious Men in Black hooligan firm who previously targeted the home of Wayne Rooney and allegedly threatened to kill him after he announced he was leaving the club in 2010 before signing a new contract. I'm not sure what you've heard, Andy, if these are based in kind of reality. Men in Black, have they been kind of talking about this for a while? I know you can sometimes see some pretty horrible things on social media.
Well, I know who these people are, and I've not been told of anyone who was at the house the other night. I would expect to, because word would seep out. Men in Black, not really. United no longer have an active hooligan firm. That group, and I knew a lot of them were going to a lot of games 15 years ago and went up to Rangers in Glasgow, and there's a mob of probably 300 or 400 Manchester United lads. And within a fan base as big as Manchester United, there is more of everything. There are more disabled supporters, there are more executive supporters, there are more hooligans, but there's not been an active hooligan mob. I know who the lads are. I knew last night there wasn't going to be a firm, if you like, going to Manchester City, but inside the ground, the atmosphere was really vicious. But there's a level of organisation as well, and that where lads go with the intent of causing trouble, and they would be called risk supporters, and the police would know that. And there wasn't really that at City last night, to my knowledge, and I've not been told of anyone who was involved in the incident at Ed Woodward's house. I would expect to, if it is those people, but I've got to be honest, up to now I have not been told of anyone.
Andy, you talked about the mood shifting and the mood changing. The difficulty with the way that the narrative shifts is that there doesn't seem to be an overarching structure at the moment. That kind of goes back to the fact that we've been talking, I'd say, for about 18 months now about the potential arrival of a technical director at Manchester United, and that would be somebody who would be able to go out and answer the football questions that Ed Woodward clearly can't, and it would give some support and cover at an intellectual level to the manager, whoever that manager is, if it was Mourinho previously or if it was Solskjaer now, to at least suggest that there is an overarching plan on the football side. It's clear the business side is being relatively well run in terms of making the club as profitable as it possibly can. But at some point, the link to the success of the football team will become more obvious as sponsors decide that they have better, cheaper options available with teams who are winning things and qualifying as a matter of routine for the Champions League. That all comes back ultimately to Ed Woodward's door. And so while there will be undoubtedly some sympathy for him and his family after what happened this week, the reality is that the perception of his job won't change, that the perception that he hasn't done a very good job on the football side of things, which, let's face it, is the whole point Manchester United exists, that he hasn't done that job very well, that's not going to change, is it?
No, and you're right, and he's getting criticised for good reason, because he has been the leading executive overseeing a strategy of recruitment which has not worked. And I put this to him. I looked him in the eye and put it to him face to face in October, and he held his hands up. But he also said that he's not choosing the players. He maintains that this image of him scouting players or saying he's a good guy. He said, I don't do that. I can't do that. But he is on the football side, and this is where it all becomes clouded, because I know that certain players have wanted to leave and have been stopped from leaving because Ed Woodward, who's taken advice from the football experts within the club, have stopped players like Anthony Martial going, and he wanted to go, and Jose Mourinho was happy for him to go. And I asked him about the sporting director. I didn't get a very clear answer. I got a long answer. And the problem he's got is managers in England who've not worked with a sporting director do not tend to want a sporting director because it takes power away from them. What you've got at United is what Woodward called the football experts. There's some people there on the football side who've got fantastic CVs. They've worked at some of the best clubs. They've been responsible for bringing some great players through. The question is, why aren't they doing that at Manchester United? Because there's young players coming through, and there's talent bubbling under at sort of 16, 17-year-old level. But why have so many players been signed who've turned out to be flops? It lacks, as you say, a clear policy and structure. Now, they've said they've done this structural reset, and that now the players that they're getting will be ones who've identified and predominantly, young, attacking, coachable, British, but they'd still buy the superstars. But fans need to be convinced of this. It's all right saying it, and you did see some evidence of it, I think, with Saka, James, and Harry Maguire in the summer. Yeah. Supplemented by the so-called superstar of Bruno Fernandes, who's about to come. But again, it's all about results.
Is he going to be that superstar, Andy? I think Gary Neville was saying last night that don't expect anything big in the short term.
I'm not an expert on him, but what I do is go to Lisbon once a year, and I interview the presidents and coaches at Benfica and Sporting, and I spoke to a very senior coach at Benfica off the record last week, and I just said, by the way, I'm from Manchester, what's Bruno Fernandes like? And he said he's very, very good. He's a box-to-box midfielder. He shoots, he assists. In his opinion, he'd be good for the Premier League. He runs, he covers a lot of ground. He knows a lot more about Bruno Fernandes than I do. And he could have easily said to me, Andy, don't waste your money. But he didn't. I spoke last night to Diogo Dalot, and I said Fernandes, and he just went top. Now, he's going to say that. Yeah. And I can remember going to PSV, when the team had signed Memphis Depay, and speaking to their chief executive and speaking to Philippe Cocu, and on and off the record, they're like, you've got an absolute gem here. This guy is fantastic. He wasn't. He's clearly talented. He's a captain of Lyon now, injured admittedly, but he didn't work at Old Trafford. So, as you say, I'm not expecting him to come in immediately and have the impact that, I don't know, Edgar Davids had when he went to Barcelona on loan. But the team definitely needed strengthening. There are serious injuries there, and his signing will be welcomed. I'd love it to work out for the lad. And to be fair to United, I do think that they have held out on the price. They knew that There wasn't a queue of suitors there, which asks the second question, why? And they knew that Sporting needed the money, and they've got the man.
Andy, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning, as ever.
Thank you.
Andy Mitten there giving us some thoughts on Manchester United's 1-0 victory last night and the mood music around Old Trafford.